Now to the most important part of every show. Today's guests are Brandon Grimsley, president of our local United Community Bank, and Kitty Mauzy. Did I get that
You
right?
got it right. You
Oh,
got it
that's
right.
a challenge.
Yes.
I'm challenged. Mortgage loan originator with United Community Bank. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you
Rick.
for having us. Yes.
I appreciate y'all coming. I looked on your website this morning. As big a bank as y'all are, your small town service is still there. And I can't say that about some other banks. As they've gotten bigger, I have found their service to just get worse and worse. That is something it's one of the reasons I called and reached out to y'all. I like to highlight better businesses in our area, and I really felt like y'all have done a nice job within our community, and it looks like you're doing it in a lot of communities. So thank y'all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rick.
Can you tell me about United Community Bank for those who are perhaps unfamiliar with United Community?
I can do that. Rick, thank you. That was a very nice compliment. Our CEO of the organization, one of his top goals is to be a big bank with a small bank feel.
Oh,
And I think he's doing very well at that. But United Community Bank is now in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. What did I miss?
I think that's
Nothing.
it. I
Okay,
think that's
6
it.
states, over 200 branches. Our footprint goes from Miami to Charlotte, from Nashville to Myrtle Beach. Founded in Blairsville back in 1950.
wow.
Yeah.
Founded in Blairsville.
It was founded in Blairsville in 1950. And I think we've been a staple in our community ever since that time.
74 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, we need to celebrate next year. 75,
I know,
75
it'll be
big years.
exciting.
That's pretty good. Well, Kitty, tell me a little about yourself. How are you at United Community Bank? Tell me about life.
I'm one of those Florida transplants, which I know that's a bad word
What
sometimes.
part?
The Panhandle. So Destin, Florida, is where I come from. But I got here as quick as I could because I love the mountains.
Sure.
Love the weather. No hurricanes. No humidity. Although people would beg to differ on some days, but yeah, got here as fast as I could because I just love the area. Um, I found United through people in town. They said that's the place you want to be, and it's the rest is history. I've been there now 7 years. Love it. Just love doing what I do, putting people in houses, and being part of the community. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Now, Brandon, tell me a little about yourself.
Okay, I'm from Blairsville. The first job I ever had was at United Community Bank. At that time, it was Union County Bank, and I was the guy they chose to help people receive what they called an ATM card because we had to have an ATM machine. And at that time, I thought, ATM machine, no one will ever use those. But apparently, the bank down the street, First National Bank at that time, had an ATM machine, so we had to keep up. So my first job at the bank, actually in high school, was working with the ATM machine. And I've worked in almost every department since then,
Wow.
up to most recently being the president of United Community Bank in Hiawassee and also a financial advisor there.
Very good. Well, speaking of financial advising, tell me a little about CD. I kind of outside real estate, but I do find it interesting because everything kind of works together. What are you seeing in CD rates? What's going on?
Well, really, up until about a year and a half or 2 years ago, people were earning 0 point something on a CD, not even 1%.
Not a whole lot of incentive there.
Our competition up the street might be offering 0.2, which was doubling our 0.1, so we could match it at that time. But CD rates now have, up until about a month ago, a longer term CD rate was much less than a short term CD rate. But now we're seeing a flattening of that inverted yield curve. So across the country, 5-year CD rates are now equivalent to the 1-year CD rate, which tells me it's a good time to lock in longer term if you are in the fixed income market.
All right. Something that we often hear since the early Depression days of the late 20s, early 1930s, is FDIC insurance.
Sure.
How does one? How does that work? Everyone feels like they know what it means, but what's it really mean?
It can be quite confusing. Number one, choose a strong bank. You don't want to have to depend on the FDIC,
Yeah.
which it is a privately held insurance corporation, but and typically if a bank does fail, the FDIC steps in and covers all the deposits. But they are only guaranteed up to $250,000. Fortunately, we in our market, the two banks in Hiawassee are strong banks. But for those folks that are concerned, a spouse can easily receive or spouses can structure their accounts to receive well over $1 million in FDIC insurance coverage if it's structured properly.
Is that when you say if it's structured properly? Is that something that when we were moving our money into your bank, we would want to talk to you all about, or?
Yeah, so any account is insured up to $250. Okay, so I can have an individual account for $250.
Right.
My wife could have an account for $250, and then jointly we could have a $500,000 account. So basically, two people can have $1 million coverage if structured properly. So if you are concerned about the FDIC insurance, definitely talk to your banker to help you structure your deposits accordingly.
I think that's why Packy and his wife have all those accounts. The show's producer, I think he has all these different accounts. And would that be true? Let's say I had money in your bank and I had money in a bank back in Florida. I would have coverage down there too.
Each individual institution has their own FDIC insurance coverage.
That's probably why Packy has his money in countless banks, both he and his lovely bride. Offshore.
But Bohemian accounts, yes, okay.
Folks, today's guests are with United Community Bank. We've got Brandon Grimsley and Kitty Mauzy. Let's dive into real estate. Kitty, what's the most common question you get? It's probably the most common question an agent gets regarding.
Yeah. So the one question I get asked probably at least 20 times a day, at least, is what's the rate? What's the rate? Tell me what the rate is. And, I tell everybody there's a lot of factors that go into I can't just, spout out a rate.
Right.
I need to know some things. So one big thing is how much money do you have to put down? What's your credit score look like? Are you a first-time home buyer? What type of loan are you looking for? Because that does matter. So, but once I just ask them a few questions, maybe 5 or 6 questions on the phone, I can usually get them a rate, and it's running right now. Rates are in the 7s. It's not pre-COVID rates, but it's still not a bad rate. You probably remember when I hear this all the time from folks that are a little, they remember those days when rates were back at, 14, 16, 18%.
How old do you think I am?
I'm not saying.
Brandon, should I
Rick,
be
I don't
offended?
No.
As far back as you can remember,
No,
Rick, maybe
but I have
4%,
had
right?
people. I have had people tell me that. Now I started in the business, so I've been in the business 30 years. So I'm up there too.
She started when she was 4.
Yes. So but back in the day when I started, they were at 7%.
Sure.
And I was thinking, wow, I bought my first house at 7%, and I was happy to get it. So sometimes people cringe when they hear that rate, but I'm like, listen, that's not a bad rate.
My brother-in-law recently found his old rate. This would have been early 90s. And it was in the 9s.
Right.
People, wah.
Yeah. So we're not going to see those 2.6 or 3% anytime soon, but at 7% is still a really good rate. You can still buy the rate down. There's programs out there for 100% financing. We've got VA, we've got some FHA programs, we've got construction to perm, we've got pretty much anything under the sun to get you in a house we can do.
Right.
So
Well, what all do y'all offer? I mean, y'all offer not just your traditional conventional, but what all do y'all offer?
correct. Yeah, so we do offer the standard, the VA, the FHA, the standard 30-year fix, but we also have some portfolio programs that we keep a lot of, things that might not fit in the box around here. There's a lot of acreage, properties. There's land loans. There's things that don't fit in that square that, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac people want you to put it in. So we can do a lot of those things outside the box and just keep them in-house. And that's where Brandon comes in. His people on that side of the house help me out with some other programs that we offer. But if somebody needs a loan, we can do it. Usually, there's not many things we can't do.
And while we're talking about that, if someone's interested in getting a loan, someone got a phone number here?
I do. So my direct line, and it's always on because it's either transferred to my cell phone on the weekends. I don't have banker's hours, so I know people don't work banker's hours. So it is my office number 706-439-2185. And that transfers to my cell after hours and on the weekends. So just feel free to give me a call. Now, probably I'd turn it off about 9 p.m. So I'm in the bed early. But other than that, call me anytime, weekends, nights, after hours. That's a good number to reach me.
And that's 706-439-2185.
That's right.
Very good. Do you see a lot of, well, I don't guess you would see the cash. I see a lot of cash offers.
That's right. Yes, those cash offers are killing me because I want people to hang on to their cash and do a loan. So that's where I tell them to talk to Brandon about putting their money to work for them, and then borrowing money from me, because a lot of people do. Their financial advisors tell them keep your money, and borrow the bank's money. So that I get some people that will just they'll do that, but then other people don't want a loan. They just want to. They want to be debt free when it comes to their mortgage. So in that case, I can't convince them. That's okay. We usually just get their checking or their savings or money market or something like that. But I do, we would want them to borrow as much money as they can, because the bank's money is cheap right now.
Sure.
Even though it's at 7, it's still cheap money.
Sure. I guess the most common, from a buyer standpoint or a buyer's agent standpoint, is before we drive them all over the mountains, especially in light of some of these new changes in the rules, the NAR settlement that we discussed a few weeks back here on the show, is pre-qualifications.
Yes.
If you're going to drive somebody, spend a week with them, you kind of would like to know that what you're showing them is something they can afford. So if someone's out there considering buying, we always tell them, step one, find out what you can afford. Find out if what you're wanting is within your pocket.
Can exist, right? Yeah, and that's a big disappointment for some people, because they look at houses that they can't afford, and then they come to me later and they're like, oh, but I need this, and I'm like, well, we got to look at the numbers. So yeah, I always try to encourage my people to get pre-qualified before they start looking at homes, because it just helps everybody in the long run. We do it for free. I mean, I can do it over the phone. Of course, again, nothing's set in stone till I see their financials and pull their credit, but I can at least tell them most people know what what their credit scores look like. And most people, they know how much they make. So I can tell them pretty much in 5 or 10 minute conversation what they will qualify for based on the information they give me over the phone.
What is some advice you would give to someone? Let's say they're out there and they're young and they're saving toward that first home. What, from a credit standpoint, from getting in shape to purchase, what advice would you give that young couple?
Well, the one thing that people need to realize is when they're shopping for a home, they don't need to go buy a new car or put money on their credit cards, because that I've seen that young people will go buy a car and
they're celebrating.
Yes, they're like, woohoo! I got a home. Well, we haven't closed yet, So just try to keep your credit as steady as possible before and right up until we close, so that we know that there's been no changes, and just keep an eye on things. things, because sometimes there's fraud, and people
Right.
can have fraud on their credit report, and they don't know anything about it till I pull it, and then they don't, they have no idea, and we have to get that figured out. So just look at some of the credit websites. There's a great one, annualcreditreport.com. They can go pull it once a year for free. If they don't know what their credit scores are, that's where I would start, is looking at their credit, really making sure that their credit is the best it can be. Anything over 650 is probably where we'd want to start. And then if you get over 700, you get into the best rates as well with a better credit score.
So the more dependable they are, the more confident y'all are as far
Yes.
as rates.
Yes. So yeah, when somebody tells me they have an 800 credit score and they've been on their job for 20 years, I don't even worry about it too much, But it's those newer, younger people that haven't ever looked at their credit, or they
Sure.
use Credit Karma or something like that, and those those are a little different when it comes to mortgage scores. It's a little bit different. So I always tell people, let's look at your credit and start from there, and then let's look at your income. You got to be on the same line of work for at least 2 years. Even if you're not, you can change jobs in those 2 years as
Right.
long as you stay in the same line of work,
Okay.
and save up some money. Let's have a down payment. Even if it's not for your down payment, even if we do 100% financing, there's closing costs, there's cost up front, there's appraisal fees, there's things that have to be paid that aren't considered closing, aren't considered a down payment, but are needed at closing: taxes, insurance, that kind of thing. So, got to have some money saved, a little bit.
I need money to borrow money.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Well, folks talk. You know how folks are. How would someone go about, they're thinking about buying, how do they give you a call at 706-439-8125?
2185.
2185. 706-439-2185.
Yep.
And real quick, we're down to 1 minute. What can they expect when they give you a call?
Well, they can expect me to answer the phone. That's a good thing, and get them some answers pretty quickly. I mean, we try to get our people as fast as we can pre-qualified, so they can go out there and start looking. So they can get with you and go find a house.
Very good. Folks, today's guest has been president of our local United Community Bank, Brandon Grimsley. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Rick. for
And
having
Kitty
us.
Mauzy. I bank with these folks. I appreciate their service. That's the reason I reached out to them and invited them on the show. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rick.
you.